Hello and welcome to the Big Picture. The IPL controversy has assumed many dimensions following the decision to suspend the two franchisee teams, Rajasthan Royals and Chennai Super Kings, for 2 years and a life ban on Gurunath Mayappan and Raj Kundra. The decision to impose this punishment was taken by a Supreme Court appointed committee of retired judges headed by former Chief Justice of India R.M. Lodha. While there seems to be unanimity among the people that some harsh punishment was necessary to cleanse cricket, especially the 2020 format of IPL, from the various corrupting influences, the mode and method employed to do it has come under some controversy. The Supreme Court, which has been handling the IPL matter ever since it was approached by the BCCI in August 2013, had appointed a committee headed by Justice Mukul Mudgal in October 2013 and asked the same committee to investigate the corruption in IPL in April 2014. After the Justice Mudgal committee presented its report in November 2014, the Apex Court appointed the Justice Lodha committee to determine appropriate punishments for Mayappan, Kundra and the two franchisees they represented. Now questions are being raised about whether this committee of retired judges have the powers to impose punishments. We will look into this important legal issue and discuss if the Supreme Court has evolved a new legal mechanism with this verdict and what would be the larger fallout of it on jurisprudence. To discuss this, I have with me Justice Mukul Mudgal, who was the chairman of committee appointed by the Supreme Court and also a former Chief Justice of Punjab and Haryana High Court, Justice B.A. Khan, former Chief Justice of Jammu and Kashmir High Court, KTS Tulsi, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court and also a MP in the Rajya Sabha, K.N. Bhatt, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court and former Additional Solicitor General of India, Legal Editor, Hindustan Times. Welcome to all of you. Justice Mudgal, I would like to come to you first. You have done a lot of work on this. You headed two committees, you went through the whole thing, you gave a very exhaustive report. Is this the kind of punishment which you are happy about?
Well, any kind of misdemeanor and its offshoot, obviously there's no question of happiness about it. But
satisfaction.
Satisfaction in the sense that it is a deterrent punishment. Some people had asked for that their franchise should be terminated. I don't think the panel has gone to that extent. It has balanced all interest of deterrence and yet fairness, and I think it's a very appropriate order.
Okay, but coming to this, we are not going. Actually, it has been discussed to death in the last 3 days since this thing came. But this new controversy which has cropped up about whether this kind of a committee has the powers to impose punishments. What is your view on that?
Yes, let me tell you, I think this is a misconception for the reason that it's not that the Supreme Court has transferred its penal powers to give imprisonment or any such thing to the panel. What they have done is the power which had to be exercised by BCCI and was not being exercised is being now exercised by this panel. They are actually the alter ego of the BCCI, which the court found on this issue had become dysfunctional, disabled or not willing to take this action. That is why. So I don't think it's the penal power which you may be right in questioning. There's no such thing. It is punishment in an administrative matter because the administrative machinery of the BCCI had perhaps become disabled or defunct.
Okay. Mr. Bhatt, how would you look at this?
Yeah. Well, cricket is one of the most popular games in the whole of India, and people are directly connected with that. If instead of cricket, if it were to be a Kathakali performance, Supreme Court would not have interfered. Because the people, about 1 billion people watch it and enjoy it or comment on it. So it is an important event. It is a public matter. Though it has been run by a private body as a private activity. But then, as you rightly said in the summary right in the beginning, it is the BCCI which went and told the Supreme Court that please do look into the IPL also and
no, sir, I know
whatever
BCCI,
has happened, I don't want to go into the history.
Sorry, BCCI went to the Supreme Court appealing against the Mumbai High Court order Mumbai High Court had, taken a decision and they went against to file an appeal against the Mumbai High Court order.
I mean, you see, I know the history of it. It is the Bihar Cricket Association which first approached, and because all those things are unnecessary for your scope of the argument, show today. So it is the Supreme Court did not voluntarily come and take it, and it has been asked by BCCI in an appeal, told that please look into it, and that when you start looking into it, in view of the public importance of the matter, as I said, in view of the importance of cricket to India. If it were to be kabaddi, I don't know whether the same thing would have done. They would have said that solve it yourself. Because it is the importance of the game and importance of the general public. That is the reason why Supreme Court took it. And what better machinery you can have than the three very eminent judges, retired judges of the Supreme Court, looking into the matter and applying the rules of the BCCI, not in an Indian Penal Code, mind you, because the Indian Penal Code cannot be just imported and applied like that. So these people, and if you want fairness of inquiry, nothing could be, no better machinery can be invented by anybody. And I am personally very satisfied that a very appropriate machinery has done something, probably what they could do the minimal as the situation.
Okay.
And there is nothing wrong either legally, technically or anything else.
Okay. Justice Khan, the three-member retired judges committee is the alter ego of the BCCI. How do you look at it? And so what they have done is, what BCCI should have done, they have done.
I don't reconcile myself to that kind of perception at all. It's not that Supreme Court is going to outsource everything and take over.
This is some kind of an outsourcing? You agree that this is some kind of an outsourcing?
Looks like that. What is they see? Supreme Court is seized of the matter. They have affirmed the report in a way of the Mudgal Committee. And they have returned certain findings. Supreme Court otherwise is not a court of fact finding. And when it comes to what should be the outcome of it, then you outsource and make a committee for determining the quantum of the punishment. Now that committee's hands are tied. They can't go beyond what the Supreme Court has said in the judgment. And what is the result? The result is that both these gentlemen, or what should I say, both these accused, have been deprived of a fair trial. See, we are governed by a system. In our system, there are laws of evidence. Every accused has a fundamental right of a free trial. And in that free trial, he enjoys certain rights. For example, right of a cross-examination, collection of an evidence. Any evidence gathered against an accused has to be tested. Its veracity has to be tested. And then there are remedies.
If I'm not wrong, when the Supreme Court asked the three judges set up this committee, they said they should talk to the people who have been named by Justice
It's not a
Mudgal
question of talking. It's a question of what evidence is there against an accused whom you are depriving for life of a business to be carried or whatever, which he would have enjoyed, which he had a constitutional right to run. What is that evidence? And where is that evidence tested? And how are you keeping how are you keeping that evidence as a close guarded secret? Why can't you make that public? See, by this logic, tomorrow a committee is set up, and that committee may name anybody that the fellow is tainted, and that fellow gets tainted for life.
And he has no...
and he has no...
but it is being said that this order can be appealed.
Yeah.
Order says so. No, what is the judicial redress, Girish? Supreme Court is affirming a finding of a committee, of Mudgal committee, and then tomorrow, what judicial redress these people have if they go to the Supreme Court? 6 judges of the Supreme Court have done this exercise. Who is going to override that? They are rendered remediless, may I tell you.
If according to you, they are rendered remediless, despite saying that there is an appeal.
No judicial process, no judicial forum can override or overlook or afford to go against an affirmation of some report by the Supreme Court.
Okay. Mr. Tulsi? Mr. Tulsi, how do you look at this? Do you think that, you know, the accused have been left remediless?
No, this is not a criminal trial, and there is no accused. This is a question of the internal mechanism of BCCI, which failed to take into account the conflict of interest. For instance, the president wore 3 hats. He wore the hat of an administrator, he wore the hat of an owner of a franchise, and he also then wore the hat of ensuring that disciplinary proceedings are taken. His own son-in-law has been found to be involved with the consent of India Cements. The question is, can there be a fair procedure? Can the rules of BCCI itself be implemented in a manner that there is elimination of conflict of interest and there is some transparency and some objectivity in the way in which the rules are implemented? There was complete chaos in the manner in which BCCI was functioning like a private limited company. So the investigation was done. With great respect to Justice Khan, I do not agree that anybody's rights have been trampled upon. This is an internal mechanism. It's an administrative decision. This is not a criminal trial. They were given opportunity of hearing. Natural justice has been complied with for the purpose of an administrative decision. And the punishment which can be awarded under the rules of the BCCI has been determined by the committee of independent persons which is formed by the Supreme Court, because the mechanism of the BCCI itself does not function in an impartial way. It does great violence to the rights of the people to be able to watch an innocent game which is free of crime. So I think that what has been done, nobody has been condemned. This is a punishment which has been awarded. It can be challenged.
Challenged where, sir?
Condemned for their action.
No, the question is challenged where? Sir,
no, they are.
Mr. Tulsi, where will Gurunath Mayappan and Raj Kundra go and challenge?
See, this is a punishment inflicted by the committee under the rules of the BCCI. And therefore, one can't say that there is nowhere for them to go.
Where will they go?
Wherever the orders of the BCCI can be challenged, will be challenged.
Wherever.
This is not the last word, but at least the BCCI has been made to function in an objective, impartial manner which is at arm's length with those of the defaulters.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Khan.
May I respond, my lords? May I remind Mr. Tulsi that betting is an offence, and it is only because of that offence that they are being punished.
That the matter came to the court.
No. The court. Why should they be punished? It's an offence, whether it's under anti-corruption.
This is an administrative decision.
Just a minute. It's not administrative.
This does not convict them.
It's an offence.
It's administrative.
It's an offence. And
it's
that's
like
why you are penalizing them.
Against a public servant.
You are penalizing for suspension of 2 years and for life. Otherwise, what is the authority for penalizing?
That's right.
So it is an offence. No, once it's an offence,
authorities under the BCCI
then you have to put this man, and he says he is not accused. He's an accused. Is he not accused when you are telling him that?
Let me get Justice Mudgal. Justice Mudgal, are they accused or not?
No, they are not accused. I regret that I cannot agree with my learned brother, Justice Khan. All the punishment is as prescribed in the BCCI rules. The order quotes every rule which is applied, and the punishment, it is administrative in the manner of a domestic inquiry. And well, you are right that generally there would not be interference with a committee of 3 eminent judges of the Supreme Court. But the words used in the final paragraph of the Supreme Court judgment is that these can be challenged in appropriate judicial proceedings. Maybe it's an appellate authority, it could be a writ court of the High Court or the Supreme Court.
After the Supreme Court passes this order, yes, Satya Prakash, how do you look at this? Well, and this whole, because this question has come up because as Justice Khan said, that it seems like justice delivery has been outsourced.
Three things. First, I don't think the punishment is too harsh. Second,
no, it's not a question of whether harsh or not.
No, because some of the people are saying the punishment has
no, that's not the question. Is not a big harsh.
Supreme Court.
The question is whether can they do it or not. That is the question.
Supreme Court has, in a way, delegated its power to
a committee.
To a committee to pronounce verdict on punishments, blah blah.
No.
The ideal situation would have been the committee could have recommended to the Supreme Court that this should be the punishment, and Supreme Court would have approved it. But for the Supreme Court to say that this committee would pronounce the verdict on punishment, that is wrong. That should not be done. Not because the Supreme Court cannot do it. I think it cannot do it, and it should not do it. The reason is, then it seems as if the Supreme Court is delegating its power. I agree that it's not a criminal proceeding. But
according to Justice Khan,
they are accused in some other criminal proceeding, but these are not criminal proceedings.
Okay.
But still, the Supreme Court could not have delegated its power to pronounce verdict on punishment. Ideally, the court could have asked the committee to determine the punishment and recommend it back to the court, and the court finally would have put its seal of approval. So, to this extent, I think there is some kind of a goof of the court should not have done it.
This is Mudgal.
It's problem.
When you were asked to, when you were appointed to head this committee, two committees actually, first one and second later to look at the larger corruption issue. You could have recommended this. Why didn't you recommend this?
Because that was not our mandate.
It was not your mandate.
And I want to say something slightly different from what Mr. Satya Prakash said. I said that yes, it is possible to say that the punishment could have been recommended to the Supreme Court. But this process has been achieved by saying in appropriate judicial proceeding, we assume that it will be before the Supreme Court. You have an opportunity of telling the Supreme Court that this punishment is not appropriate. It is either contrary to the rules or natural justice has not been observed. So what could not have been done according to Mr. Satya Prakash? There is some substance in what he may say, but it has been achieved by giving them, if it was set final and binding full stop, then perhaps what Mr. Satya Prakash said. I say that because it is challengeable in judicial proceedings, then the same remedy is available. I mean, even if it had come up for confirmation, the recommendation, the same process would have been followed.
The Supreme Court has unnecessarily exposed itself to some sort of criticism. The court could have taken it into account in advance and could have asked this committee to recommend punishment, and then finally the courts would have pronounced it. Not
Mr. Bhatt, would you agree with that? That maybe this committee, first of all, I want to know from you if there is any precedent like this in at the Supreme Court level where a committee like this has been appointed to determine what kind of punishment should be given in such matters, whether it's cricket or anything else. Is there a precedent? And second, don't you think that even if they had appointed this committee, it should have been recommendatory in nature so that finally the Supreme Court itself should have passed this judgment?
It is recommendatory today and nothing more than that. Those people who are complaining, if they are complaining that something wrong has been done, they can make an application, according to me, even now to the Supreme Court and say that the committee appointed by you has committed X, Y, Z errors. And the Supreme Court will say that they have retained that power. It is not that you recommend and I recommend. Then it would have been worse. If the committee were only to recommend and then the Supreme Court were to approve, then these people would have been remediless. Because undoubtedly nobody can technically against any such domestic inquiry in a private body's dispute. A civil suit could have been filed or something like that, whatever it is, possible. But when there are 3 retired judges of the Supreme Court have found something, it is very difficult for an ordinary judge somewhere in the lower court to do anything. But today it is possible for them, because these are all without any precedent. I agree that it was without any precedent. Therefore, to the Supreme Court, sitting as a judicial body, what has been punished is a committee which has been appointed by the Supreme Court. But these people who feel aggrieved can go to the Supreme Court and say that there has been some errors committed by this committee, if there was an error. And if there is nothing, there is nothing, because on the judicial side of the Supreme Court, It will surely examine if there was a gross error on the part of Lodha committee.
No, but
So it is not right to say that they are emitted as and using words like goofed up, etc.
No, I am saying in the first place, if there is an error, it is on the part of the Supreme Court in delegating this power. The court could not have done it because it gives a bad impression.
You say, first of all, using all these words are totally out
that's accepted, Mr. Bhatt.
Because, you know, this is not...
Mr. Bhatt, your point is well taken. We should be careful with the words which we are using here. Justice Khan, precedent. There was no precedent like this before. Huh?
No.
I
that is one. May I take that's one part. Of course, there is no precedent. Second is this: if I explain it by an analogy, Mr. Tulsi is the eminent criminal lawyer. This is like a criminal court convicting a person, then sending it to a committee that you go and see what the punishment would be. See, determination of punishment is on the satisfaction which a court derives on the basis of the material which is before it. What was the material before the Supreme Court while passing their judgment? Was the Mudgal Committee report. Where is the Mudgal Committee report's evidence? It's a close-guarded secret. What is Supreme Court doing? It says, okay, we affirm this finding of the Mudgal Committee report. And after affirming, it sets up a high-level committee, former Chief Justice, eminent judge, and 2 other judges, and tells them, you go and determine the punishment. What is their scope of determination? Because Supreme Court has already foreclosed it. All they have to do is what? To determine.
2 years,
on what,
5 years, 10 years,
no,
life back.
On what basis? On the affirmation of the Supreme Court, affirming the findings of the Mudgal Committee report.
I'd like to say something. Yes. I think there's a misconception about the evidence not being available.
Is it available on record?
Look, the entire thing, copies were given to the party. Nobody bothered to go through it. And
the party, is it available in public domain?
Everybody, the press also had access to it. But since their volumes were...
Not the entire report.
No, if you hadn't got it, that doesn't mean it wasn't made available. Now, let me tell you, the second thing is, all that the court has kept secret is the envelope which had some names. And there are good reasons for it to be kept. Supposing the name...
You think there are good reasons?
Yeah, very good reasons.
But you put in a lot of effort to come out with this report and you don't want it to become public.
I want to tell you something. Supposing there's a list of 10 people. I'm not going into this particular list. And the list has many people who are totally innocent. The minute their name comes out, then whether or not in public eye, they are damned. These are public figures. That is one part of it. That the entire evidence which we did have was filed before the court.
You are, sorry, let me...
In many volumes, running into 20
many volumes, exactly, many volumes, and many volumes are not available in the public domain.
They were available to those who care to go and investigate and take copies. The court, Justice Patnaik's court, the original court said, all this, please release it to the...
No, but my question is this. When this sealed envelope was given with the names of people and things like that, you were convinced that, you know, whatever work you had done and you had got those names, not enough for them to be, you know...
Precisely.
The kind of evidence, the kind of things which you had got was not enough.
Their contents.
Then why did you have to put their names on that?
No, look, I wouldn't like to reveal the contents because the...
No, I'm not asking for contents.
No, there may have been a name against whom maybe something defective was found, but I'm sorry to say the purpose of a sealed cover was, and the Honorable Supreme Court, after opening the envelope, must have found a purpose to be right. Therefore, they did not do. The only thing which is not public is the sealed cover. I'm telling you.
No, but you know, now, for instance, Mr. Tulsi, one of the persons who has been banned for life, Raj Kundra, is now saying that, you know, the Justice Mudgal Committee report should be fully publicized, should be available to everybody. He thinks that there is something there which can prove him innocent. Now, when these kind of things are there, now what does he do? What does this person do now? And if do you think that the Supreme Court or a lower court will revive the whole case? There can be fresh evidences provided.
No. No. Justice Mudgal's mandate was
I'll come to you, Mr. Bhatt.
investigate. And Justice Mudgal investigated and then gave his report to the Supreme Court. After that, this committee was formed to determine punishment under the BCCI rules. So they have followed principles of natural justice against the persons. Anyone who has been disqualified has been given the entire relevant material. They can't say that we want the material given by Justice Mudgal in respect of other persons.
Okay.
Other persons who are not related to this transaction.
So you think this was not
Whatever
a judicial proceeding?
Was given, and on that basis.
So
no,
this was not a judicial proceeding?
This is merely like a departmental proceeding.
Departmental proceeding by a committee appointed by the Supreme Court.
Criminal, yes, appointed by Supreme Court, and thereafter the criminal court will decide these matters on the basis of evidence that is led before the criminal court.
Okay.
And the documents which are filed, the charge sheet which is filed, it will be an independent trial. It is normal in criminal jurisprudence for a person to be proceeded with departmentally as well as tried. This is not double jeopardy. And all these principles of constitutional law have been settled long ago.
Okay. Yes,
I'd like to say this thing.
I'll come to you, Mr. Bhatt.
In the probe committee, Mr. Mayappan, when he appeared, he said, I refuse to answer any question on the ground that it may incriminate me in the trial.
So, as Mr. Tulsi is saying that you will have to face the proceedings in a criminal court, and it won't be double jeopardy.
No, it can't be. Double jeopardy is criminal conviction twice.
Achha, this is not criminal conviction. Yes, Mr. Bhatt, very quickly, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Bhatt.
And in short, I entirely agree with my learned friend Mr. Tulsi, and every bit of what he said is accurate, both in law and the thing, because then don't think that I am certifying, but I agreeing with him.
Okay.
It is not a criminal trial. It is not a criminal punishment, and those are the separate proceedings.
Okay. Justice Khan.
And they can go to the Supreme Court.
Okay, sir.
And say that if there is anything.
Okay. Justice Khan. What is the fallout of this? Because this was unprecedented. Has this set a precedent? What can happen in future if some other organization?
Fallout of this straight away would be that our system will immediately get impacted, because when you go on bypassing our established procedures, our established hierarchies, then the system is bound to go affected. Now, tomorrow, it may so happen that any matter may be taken up, and whatever is to be required by an established, under law established forum is to be done. Now, practically speaking, both these eminent lawyers must realize, is it possible for any court to take any contrary opinion to what has been decided or finalized by 6 Supreme Court judges?
Exactly. That is, that's a very important point.
Practically impossible.
That is an important
Girish, in
this matter, but you know,
in our working, if for example High Court takes an administrative action somewhere, and if that agreed person comes to the High Court back, it becomes uphill task for him to get a redressal.
Absolutely. Okay, Mr. Tulsi, very quickly, sir, you wanted to react.
It's not an unprecedented step taken by the Supreme Court. The Bhurelal Committee was constituted by the Supreme Court about 13 or 14 years ago, and it is still in office. But because of widespread corruption in the Municipal Corporation of Delhi, this committee was empowered by the Supreme Court to take decisions under the Municipal Corporation Act.
Okay.
That was an expert committee on environmental transport issues. And in that case, a court can seek an assistance of an expert as it does in any judicial proceeding.
Yes, sir.
But that was not a committee to punish.
This is the jurisdiction of public law. Public law in India is still evolving.
Okay.
And it is a process of evolution. It could be a precedent in given circumstances where public interest so requires, when a body of...
Okay, sir. I think it's a fascinating discussion. Something like this, a problem of jurisprudence cannot be decided in half an hour, but I'm sure the debate on this should continue, and see what this will all lead up to. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in the Big Picture same time tomorrow.